Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon one more time. Oops, that's loud. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying till the end here. I promise we'll make it worth your while, as we've been saying all along. Welcome to our last session here of Automotive Logistics Global 2017. We've got a great panel here of experts from OEMs who are going to be taking our questions and hopefully lots of your questions as well, talking specifically about innovation. Defining innovation in this space, as we've been trying to do for the last 2 days, arguably for the past 20 years since automotive logistics came into existence. I'm not sure we've quite got there yet, but we're going to take another crack at it. And obviously, we can address a number of other strategic topics across the automotive supply chain with our great panel here. Just a few points before we kind of kick off. I mentioned it in the last session, but we do want to get your feedback before the end of the day, or like I said, ideally before you leave. Although you can do that after if you prefer. But on the app, on the menu screen, there's a feedback button, and if you click that, you can please just follow the form and let us know what you think of the conference, of the format, of the events and things like that around it, and we'll definitely use your feedback to inform the program and the way we organize the event in future. We'll also do the quick polling at the end about the session itself. So do take a moment to give us your feedback. Also, just a quick announcement about two prize draws. We're not going to give out the prize draws here, but just to kind of let you know, there were two prize draws going on. One was a Penske racing helmet, and one was an RJ and Sons Apple Watch. And the winner of the Penske racing helmet is David Romanek from Bros. So Penske will, if David is here, he can go to the Penske stand and pick it up. If David is not here, I'm sure we'll make sure that the connection is made. So that's congratulations on winning that. And the winner of the Apple Watch is Paul Cuccinelli from Toyota Chusho. So again, RJ and Son will find you, go to the stand, or Paul will make sure that they get in touch with him. So congratulations on those. Right. So I think it's been a very fascinating couple of days. We spent a lot of time talking about disruption, talking about change. It's I guess it's probably hardly an automotive subject matter that we can talk about these days that isn't focused on what's coming down with digitalization, with autonomous vehicles, with EVs, with mobility services. I mean, there's so much. 10 years ago, even when I kind of started here, we could probably say that the motor car hadn't really changed that much in 100 years. Of course, it had gotten better, safer, faster, more efficient, but the car was the car. It kind of got you where you needed to be. It was a status symbol in certain places more than others. But I mean, today, and certainly 5-10 years from now, the car is so much more than transportation. And what that means for the supply chain, I think we're only just beginning to really understand that. Both from the structure of the industry. We're talking at lunch with these companies, that autonomous technology companies, which have valuations which are going way beyond any of the car makers, and which the technology is going to go into. So it tells you at least something about what Wall Street thinks about that. Whether that matters or not, I don't know. But clearly, there's a whole lot of excitement. The money that's happening, the change, the investment that's coming through the supply chain is just phenomenal. And again, what it will mean in logistics terms, I can't tell you exactly, but I think we're looking at a clearly more connected supply chain, more opportunities for visibility, but also changes. I mean, changes in companies, changes in processes, changes in the marketplace altogether. I can't count how many times we've talked about the Amazon effect. Over the coming years, we'll talk about it more, I'm sure. And I think it's not just sort of speculation, though, anymore. Increasingly, it's not just speculation. The consumer expectations have changed. One of the reasons that I'm really glad we have Ed Huante from the service parts side of the business on stage is because I think one can make the case that Amazon effect isn't a theory at all for service parts. Service parts is already disrupted, let's say. So it's sort of maybe perhaps a bit of a lesson ahead of the curve for other parts of the business. And as Louis said over lunch, I think we talk about innovation all the time, but I do think hopefully we can pin down a little bit some of the areas that we mean and what specifically we can do. Google Glass is great. Robbie the robot is fantastic, and we're all interested in that. And I'm sure they all have important roles to play, but it's not always, obviously, it's not always a robot, it's not always artificial intelligence. There's also processes and cultural changes that we'll see as well. So let me introduce our panel to you, and then, like I said, we're looking forward to a lively discussion. Some of the panelists you would have met earlier on stage. So first, Jeffrey Estes, who is on the inbound side for Toyota Motor North America. So thanks again, Jeff, for joining us. We got a 2-for-1 Toyota panel for you today. Ed Huante, who's general manager on the service parts side. So I think Toyota is in a one Toyota transition now, so there is more connection than there used to be. They used to be on the other sides of the country. Now they're together, and we even got them on stage. But again, it is different sides of the business, and as I said, I think that'll be really interesting to talk about what's the different trends that we see impacting logistics on either side. Very pleased to welcome back Matthias Schulz, who's the Director of Material Planning and Logistics for North America at Ford. And Dana McBrien, of course, Associate Chief Advisor for Logistics at Honda North America. So between our panels, we do cover the kind of length and breadth of the supply chain. And so we got a chance to kind of tackle any of your points, questions, comments, concerns. I'm not sure if I really need to introduce the fairest of them all at the end of the panel. Yeah, the Snow White over there, Louis Yakumi, of course. So again, you get 2-for-1 Toyota, you get 2-for-1 automotive logistics on this panel. We'll be both chairing this session together. So simple question to start off. It's the one that Louis alluded to earlier. In your side of the business, what would you define as in the innovation that you're looking for, that you're hoping to see in your area of the business? So we can start with Jeff at Toyota from the inbound side.
Yeah, I think from an innovation standpoint, and actually I attended the tier 1 in the supply chain, next door, the session earlier, and what I really wanted to kind of grasp is the tier 2 and tier 3 visibility, because I think sometimes, as we have these crises, we always throw out a survey to the tier 1, what's your situation, right? What's the inventory status? What's what's the impact? And we ask and we throw in there, please confirm your tier 2 and tier 3, right? And we trust that to come back. So I think visibility further back into the supply chain so we can understand the risk really will help us. So as we evolve that supply chain and that visibility, we want to trust that back, but it's kind of trust but verify. It's a kind of old adage is that, we're all kind of micromanagers in some ways, right? And we have to be able to understand how far back we can see.
Yeah. Ed?
Well, thank you very much. I think the pinch points today for lack of innovation is, I think, at least on the service part side and planning side, I think we've seen innovation 2 ways, what I call innovation under a crisis situation, and then innovation that's more of a freelance when everything is okay. And I think like most automotive manufacturers, probably most companies, we do our best work probably under pressure, and we tend to be doing a lot of innovative things during a crisis situation. With the weather situation that it is today and the earthquakes that you're seeing on the headline news today, during the recession around 2009, 2010, somebody who was either in my job or my boss's job, during the recession, thought innovatively and said, we really need to come up with better business continuity strategy. And even though it's something as simple as business continuity, to see the picture when you're in the frame, because it's hard to see the picture when you're in the frame, but to step out of the recession mode and say, we need to plan for these life-changing catastrophic events. We need to change for IT, we need a business continuity for IT systems going down, electricity being lost, transportation companies going bankrupt. All these things that somebody thought about are in place. I can't remember the last time that we had this many hurricanes, earthquakes, and really big events, and from our distribution centers from Florida to Atlanta, Orlando, Puerto Rico, Mexico right now. We're really busy, just trying to maintain reopening one while another one is closing, it seems like, just to keep everybody safe. But I'm happy to tell you that in a non-crisis situation, some of our leaders and my predecessors, somebody had the foresight to put together these business continuity strategies. Because the customers who are not in the zones of impact, so if they're not in the midst of the hurricane, they're outside of the zone, they still expect service. Back to this Amazon effect. There's fulfillment all over the country for Amazon. So I'm sure if they have a crisis situation in one region, the fulfillment center somewhere else do that. And I'm happy that somebody planned for that. And what I'm thinking that what I'd like to see more of is I'd like for us as an industry to do more freelance innovation versus developing innovation under a crisis situation. Thank you.
Thanks, Seth.
I guess it's me. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, maybe let me pick up the idea or the theme of tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. I can see that we will move into this direction, not only to drive the logistics, but to much better understand the value stream map in this process. Clearly, we will integrate them into our networks. The second big theme that I believe will evolve is, right now, I believe all of us are basically running dedicated networks. That will not last. I'm absolutely convinced that in the 10 years down the road, Amazon will deliver parts to Ford. Production parts, not service parts. There's no reason to believe why it wouldn't work, because all the modern technology, all the visibility on the web is so high. The reason why we don't do it today is because we won't have security for our plants. But they deliver without any fail today. Why would they not do it for a small parcel tomorrow? The other thing that will evolve is there will be no human beings in the material handling on the shop floor. They will disappear. They will do value-add actions in the background, analyze data, look into trends. But I strongly believe we get out of it. I think it will be done by robots. They're much more effective. They can operate more safe. They can address shortages in labor situations across the country, because the more you get into it, I think most service providers are struggling to find even people that are prepared to do the job. And the technology is out there. I think we saw some of it outside of this conference. I think you can search the web. I think there's no reason to believe that you will have the fully automated warehouse in a couple of years down the road. And obviously, we plan to be part of this journey. And these are probably the three big themes that I can see happening on the inbound side. Understand the value stream map. Don't run dedicated networks. Fully automation of the material handling.
I'll take a little more macro level look at what innovation means. The old adage that you don't take a knife to a gunfight, you also don't want to react to a small cut on your finger with a tourniquet. And I think we confuse applying something that we call innovation to small change. And innovation is really the reinvention of, to me, to my own personal viewpoint, is the reinvention of your business, because the changes are very large. You have to be very, very careful that you don't overreact, but you don't underreact. And yesterday, the discussion point was about the ramp, the change curve, and how rapid it is. And it's been rapid for the last 5 years, which is primarily why supply chain has become, to use Louis' terms, has become sexy again. Because it's recognized as not a necessary evil, it's recognized as a potential benefit to the company. So really, innovation is applying the right things to the right problems. And like I say, it's more about reinvention and not just minor changes to react to small changes that impact you. I applaud the fact that at the supply chain conference in Georgia, and again today, there's been talk about retail. Some might ask, why are you bringing retail to an automotive conference? And years ago, there was a clear separation between how retail handled things and how automotive handled things. But those two things are, we've had this conversation before, those two things are kind of re-merging because the Amazon effect, everybody talks about. To me, the Amazon effect is it's changing customers' viewpoints. It's changing how customers want to interact. I'll give you a little anecdote. We had a Boy Scout came to our door with his mother on Sunday, and I had my shoulder in a bush, and I was trying to fix a downspout. Bad timing for him to come, but they were selling popcorn tins. And I looked at the mom and I said, "Now, I'll have delivery of that in 2 hours, right?" And she looked at me funny. I said, "Oh, sorry, you're not Amazon." But the funny part is, it was on my doorstep the next day. But it's really that Amazon effect that everybody talks about is how it's changing the viewpoint of the customer. Who can envision that maybe in a few years the dealership is nothing more than you've got a model. It's a very small floor or showroom floor, and you have a model of every one of your cars that people can test drive, order, and we deliver in 5 or 6 days. Who knows where that's going, and how far the Amazon effect pushes everybody. One of the things I view as changing the auto industry is for anybody who's probably over 40, you can remember that going and buying a car was like a family adventure day. Go kick the tires, and I want this one. I don't want one like it, I want this one. But now the research is done so heavily on the front end that all you have to do is walk in and say, I want this car, this color, and these features. So that's a big change from 10, 20 years ago. So really the innovation that you have to apply to those types of changes is much different than the customer wants a different feature.
Firstly, I'd like to, the point that you made before. Anyone who looks at this panel and thinks logistics isn't sexy, I don't know. And also on your point about the Amazon effect, really, despite being a relatively young man, when I bought a car recently, and the way I bought a car, and I'm not despite the fact that I'm in automotive logistics, I'm not a car expert, but I'm a huge Amazon customer, Amazon Prime. I think they visit our door about 5 times a day. So when I was buying the car, I kind of made a general thing. I kind of want it to be hybrid. I rang up a car manufacturer and said, "I think you do one." And he referred me on and so on. So I looked at the one that he did. I think I looked at the website barely, rang the dealership and said, I want one of those. They said, come in, and I know rather it was my wife's really. And the other thing that makes me a kind of modern driver is we've got a family car. I don't even have a car really. I get the metro or whatever you call it, the underground train into the office, and if there's other journeys, I take Uber. But because it was going to be my wife driving it, said to me, "Can we go and see it?" I said, "Oh, okay, if you really want to." We went to see it, and our cars traditionally have been black. I said, "Can I have one of those but in black?" I said, "We haven't got one. We can get you one in about 2 weeks. What have you got quicker than that?" So we got a grey. To be honest, if it had been pink or something, then I would have waited 2 weeks. But they had one there in a grey, so I said, I'll take that one. And they said, okay, when can you come in for a test drive? I said, that's okay, we'll just take the grey one and just let me know when it's in. So that's kind of the Amazon experience that's made me buy something as expensive as a car. So it is something that, even someone at my age, 35,
Put him on the spot.
is looking at buying cars in that kind of way. But my question is, it's kind of about innovation. On the session, almost the whole conference is about innovation. But do you get a chance to dream, to think of, what I'd really, really like? Do you get a chance to do that? And if you do you then follow it up? Is there a way of following up? Or do you even, weekend, you see, I don't know, a sci-fi movie, The Jetsons or something, you think, I've got a great idea, yeah. But by the time you get into the office, there's, a million emails, 3 appointments and and a hurricane somewhere. Do you get a chance to stop and dream? And should you if you don't, isn't it very important to make the chance to stop and dream? Because I think if we don't dream, sorry, and I'm talking too much, but hey, I'm the organizer of the conference, I do what I want. But there was a recent story about the London Olympics. The film producer who was doing the opening of the London Olympics wanted 1,000 drummers. That was his vision, that was his dream, because of the noise more than anything and the effect. He spoke to the people, they said, no, our budget, 1,000 drummers will cost us £1 million and whatever. I said, but I want that, that's what I want. I want the sound, I want the vision. In the end, what they did is they just picked up, got like almost crowdsourced, and everyone picked up something, a bucket, a dustbin, a trash can, a box, whatever it was, and he got the effect that he wanted. But the fact is he had the chance to dream, and he had a chance to try and implement that. Do you guys even have the chance to dream and look at what we can do as game changers, as Dana was saying, not, maybe if we can get an extra 2% out of our cube utilization? Matt.
Oh, it's me. Well, okay. Well, first of all, I always thought you're only 29, but
It's my moisturizer.
there we go. So I learned something today, so that was very helpful. I think I would like to pick up what Dana said. I think it's not about what I dream; it's what the customers dream of. Mm-hmm. I think that's a point. And you were making reference to car ownership. Well, the concept might not exist in 10 years from now. So it's good to have a dream how it can improve the car ownership experience, but it still assumes it's out there. I know we talked about dealerships here. You've got one derivative of everything. Well, Tesla is more like an Apple store, right? Yeah. I mean, we need to get out of what we want. What do our customer wants? The customer wants the Amazon experience. The customer wants to move from A to B. I think in big cities, they will disappear. Everybody knows that the autonomous vehicles, they will not be for retail. This is fleet business. And fleet business is basically providing a service to people. So I might have lots of dreams, and they might be heavily driven by what I know, and I'm trying to optimize them, might be even innovative. But reality is the customer might move in a totally different direction. The customer expect something to be instantaneously. And I'm lacking any imagination if I call through whatever service, my autonomous vehicle, that somebody will call for color or for series or for a feature. He just wants to go from A to B. And how can I enable this? And now I'm back into, obviously, if I want to be successful as a car manufacturer, I need to be part of this value stream, because that's where the money will be made. The vehicles will become hardware, and the software is what makes the money. That's where I need to focus on. Yes, we still need to produce the hardware, of course, but this will not be the important part of the business. The important part of the business, how can I ensure that the customer gets what he wants? And the Amazon experience is there, I think. My personal experience, actually yesterday I ordered a club for golf. It promised actually even somebody who can't play golf will be good with this club. So I only recently started. But it turned up within 12 hours. And it said the components came from China, assembled in Mexico. Well, somehow they figured out that I wanted this and that I'm desperate because I'm so poor. But my experience was amazing. I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect it, because you got this wonderful email from UPS and it says, yeah, it has been the whatever scan has happened, wherever. And 2 minutes later, the message came out for delivery. Well, that was a pleasant experience. I will try it out tonight. I will report back maybe next time whether it has worked or not. But probably not. But I think that the customer expectation will change dramatically. And we are best served really to figure out what the customer of the future wants, because otherwise we dream up something that nobody wants. And clearly for the time being, whatever Tesla has promised has resulted in 500,000 people who want to have their next vehicle. They clearly figured it out for the time being. Is there a guarantee they're on the right path on the future? No. But I think it starts what you said here. We need to understand the customer and not what our dreams are. Our dreams are having a better logistics, and all of this is needed. But this is not the game changer of the future. It's just an enabler to be competitive in the hardware market, but not in the software market.
But it's interesting that your golf clubs were delivered faster than your next round of golf, probably.
I tried last night, but I was too late in the office. So,
Ed or Jeff?
I guess I would first respond to that with part of our maturation process is I no longer dream at night as much as I do during the day, right? but we call that vision, right? We don't call it dreaming, right?
Yeah.
So I think as senior leaders are expected to set that vision for our teams, right? And we have to have the knowledge and the understanding of the market changes that are going on and to be able to do that responsibly. And particularly in the logistics field, you know, it's point A to point B on the delivery side, right? And at the lowest cost and the shortest amount of lead time, you know, that's what we're all striving for, right? So how do we embrace innovation and technology to drive those improvements for ourselves? So, you know, I think our job is to set that vision and to kind of understand and have that connection with our customers, I think, as Matthias is saying, is we have to really grasp that and understand that and set that vision for our teams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Lou, I like to quote my boss on this part. He tells me, because we're in the automotive business, he says, Eddie, don't spend too much time looking in the rearview mirror. Spend most of your time looking out the windshield. There's a reason why the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror, right? And when we're driving forward, we have to look out the windshield most of the time. It's dangerous to look just in the rearview mirror. So I really like that analogy when it comes to innovation and dreaming. And I think that you have to make time to dream and think differently, both for the external customer, for the business, and to also retain good talent. Because today's workforce is hard to come by, and we need to make sure we're doing all three things: taking care of the customer, taking care of our business, and also retaining good talent. I use this analogy a lot, but you know, a lot of us in large corporations have these legacy systems that been around for years, decades. And that old adage that says, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, it's great because they're pretty reliable, and we all know it's a really hard business case to write return on investment on a really good system that's not broken. But what's really interesting is when we got to this new generation of team members that everybody's hiring, they're not just not using Microsoft Office anymore. They use apps and tablets for everything. So you can imagine hiring new workforce, new team members, a new generation, and telling them what this green screen does, and the return, escape, and cancel all mean the same thing. And they're like, why do you have to go to menu to menu to menu? And they're asking all these questions, and it's really difficult to justify that. And I think what happens is, if we're not freelance innovators, and we're not looking in the future, not just from what our customers needs or what our business needs, even our talent acquisition, what's going to happen is we're not going to match people to our systems or our process. So we've got a dream for all three, and I'm really glad that we do work for good visionaries at our companies, and even during the toughest times, we have to make that time to dream, and I think that's where leaders, good leaders, are strategic leaders with some management, some subject matter expertise, but our job is to spend most of our time strategically, and I think that's what we're able to dream.
Can we ask him what kind of car he bought?
Well, I think he's trying to be coy, but I mean, this Bugatti Veyron gold-plated is really beautiful, I have to say, which he's
And the hybrid in particular.
Yeah,
We're dying to know what kind of car he bought.
What about, I mean, this will of course depend upon which part of the supply chain you're really talking about, but you know, talking broadly, in your companies, is logistics a strategic function? Is logistics seen as something that can win a customer over, that can, you know, that is worth investing in to improve in the company, beyond the fact that, okay, it costs X company X billion per year, because it will. So it just, and has that changed? Is that something that you've changed? I mean, Dana will know, some of you will know, we're quite reflective right now because we've just put together our 20th anniversary issue, so we've been asking people these sorts of questions anyway. But so maybe we can have some perspective from the panel.
Starting with me, I guess I would say that as the OEM, our customers really don't see the value or the non-value added logistics in their final product, right? And I think someone mentioned earlier, it's a necessary thing that costs a lot of money for all of us. I would say that's probably right. So our challenge is how to mitigate those costs to keep the prices down for the end customer. And I really don't think maybe on the finished vehicle side, and our customer does care about that delivery model, but on the inbound side, they don't really care about that at all. So I think it's up to us to be able to manage that supply chain effectively. So.
I think our competitive advantage is our logistics infrastructure. I think that we have distribution centers or separation centers, and if you look at one group, like of course Jeff and I are one company, so when we look at Toyota Motors North America, I'm not looking at just the retail side of it. I'm looking from where are the suppliers, where are the separation centers, and how do we integrate and maximize our investment everywhere. And I'm happy to say that we're in probably the third or fourth year where at Toyota Motors North America, from a profitability standpoint, all our supply for service parts and for OE are under the same commercial contracts. They're under the same full trailer load carriers, so we have the same carriers for both the service parts inbound as well as our OE inbound. And I'm really happy to tell you that our separation centers and milk runs are now integrated. So the reason I say it's really good is by doing that, it forced our service parts operation, who generally use the looser method because of course we have safety stock for customer demand, it forced us to be better. So we've reduced the amount of equipment that we use in our in-base logistics. We reduced the lead time, eliminated the stagnation and dwell in just about every stage of the inbound operations. And I'm happy to tell you, just in 2017, just in a North American site, Hebron, Kentucky, we've eliminated about 17 cubic square meters of space because we're able to bring in a just-in-time inventory and actually make space where there wasn't any. So I had 6 off-site storage locations at the beginning of 2017 because certain parts of this 1 million square foot center was out of space. It was at 110% capacity. Today, those same areas are at 69, 70% capacity. So there is a competitive advantage from a cost. And from a customer standpoint, our PDCs offer a retail fulfillment experience, just like Walmart did. They're basically using the back side of their stores as distribution centers, and I think you heard the employees are making deliveries. Well, we used to be a company that would allow our dealers to order once a day. Now our dealers can order multiple times a day. And we have the same shotgun service that aftermarkets, just like Pet Boys or Crow. These guys all have shotgun deliveries. Well, we now have same-day service. You can get an order in by 10, get the part delivered by 1, and that's in addition to the stock replenishment or critical order. So I think we do have logistics inbound and in the retail network. It is our competitive advantage, and we paid for it already. Let's use it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because it's already paid for.
Okay, well, unfortunately, none of us, I probably talk for Honda, Ford, and also Toyota, have not the luxury that our customers are prepared to wait for a vehicle for a year or longer, right? Like it might be with Tesla. So clearly we are in competition for more or less the same customer base. And clearly the customer is interested to get the availability. How quickly can I get my product? And obviously logistics plays a vital part on it. Also, it also needs the right sales strategy, how you build up your stock levels. Quality is obviously absolutely vital in all of this because that's a clear differentiator. And last but not least, and logistics plays a role in it. I think the simpler we make the material flow to line sites, the better the quality gets. I recently saw a video from Audi where what they want to do in automation. And it looked like first time it was all about efficiency. It's not. It said in capital letters across every screen, quality, quality, quality. right? So that's clear. And last but not least, if you're not in the premium segment, I think everything comes then down to cost and the pressure. And we're in competition, obviously. And whoever is more effective can reduce the cost. And logistics plays a vital role in the cost of producing a vehicle. It's significant cost, and therefore we need to run it down. And thankfully, I had the opportunity both to see a Honda facility and a Toyota facility recently. And the one thing I took away out of this is, and that was very good for me, is how simple your processes are. And simplicity is obviously a key enabler to drive out waste. Needs, unfortunately, I suspect, a hell of a lot of engineering to get there, right? And I met your teams, and I know roughly how you do it, but that's a trick, right? And that's how you run the efficiency that you've just, it's pure engineering. And it needs a clear plan, a clear vision, what you want to achieve, and the right skill set. And as it has been said, I think we will be fighting for talent. People are not prepared, as you said, to work on green screens. Actually, they will accuse you, they will ask you, am I in a Ford facility or at a home for elderly care? It's probably very extreme, but that's the way they perceive. They communicate different. I think apps, as you said, it's a totally different world. And we're fighting for talent. And if a young engineer has got the choice to work for Tesla or one of the three of us, I've got a suspicion the choice is being made for which companies to work. And we should not forget that others are trying to get into this market, have got cash beyond belief, even towards what Toyota, Ford, and others have got. I think their leverage is, they've got 10 times more cash than we have got. If they really want to buy talent, they will buy talent. And there's no way we can match them, both from a attraction point of view or not. So we need to be clear to get the talent, because engineering can only happen with the right talent. So we're fighting for talent, and we need to have the latest innovation. I think we need to have a vision, and we need to have partners out there that then develop it and implement it without, there's no choice. And the cost pressure will mount more and more and more. And, 10% of the cost of a vehicle is probably logistics cost. So we are important, and the refocus is coming. And it also comes back what I said on more focusing on the value stream map. How much can we take out of? Can we help to reduce material cost? Because that's where ultimately the other big part of the cost of a vehicle is. It's material cost. It's, to a certain extent, labor and logistics cost. But we will play a vital role, and everybody in the room that supports us in this journey needs to help us. Because the customer will not pay more for our products, whatever we believe, whatever new feature we introduce as a result of legislation, but also new technology. I think the customer will not pay. The customer will not pay. We just expect it. It's like on the latest computer, the latest laptop, iPhone, 10 times more functionality, same price.
Yeah, back to your question about whether or not logistics, the view of logistics has changed. We've had quite a few conversations about it's really not logistics anymore, it's supply chain. And I think you can go back in history, and at the risk of repeating myself, because I responded to some of your questions this way, when diesel prices were $1.12 a gallon, which was about the time I came into logistics, I believe, we flew under the radar. We weren't a big cost center, not a huge cost center, but you add three or four additional models, add complexity, $4 a gallon fuel for a while, suddenly the spotlight comes on you. And at that point, the problem was cut your cost. You got to do something. The fuel's driving our logistics costs way too high. You've got to do something. So the innovation was applied more to that problem. But over time, that logistics and supply chain becoming more of a strategic partner in the business, now we're dealing with, instead of cutting costs, although that's still a target, of course, we're dealing with driver shortages. Regionally, we have driver shortages, and I've talked in this venue before. A lot of the innovation we apply is we want to run reduced miles because we've got to use our resources wisely. Now we're dealing with warehouse worker shortages. So the problem keeps shifting, and the opportunity for those in logistics and supply chain to bring solutions to those problems, it's become more of a strategic entity and not just a cost center.
Another fact for the automotive industry, we're talking about electric vehicles and possibly autonomous vehicles, but what's a fact now is the electrificationicity of vehicles. There's a lot more electric stuff. I can tell you that's right, because I won a Scrabble competition because of that. But there's a lot more electrical components in the cars. So a new type of supplier is entering the industry. So two things. Firstly, there's the fact that they're not necessarily automotive suppliers. And not only that, but you're also competing. There's certain suppliers who have to supply automotive. That's their nature. That's what they were built on. These new suppliers are, whether they're sensors or something like that, they're not used to the automotive way of working. And they're also, the competition is huge. You're no longer competing with Ford and Toyota and Honda for these suppliers. You're competing with Apple and pretty well every other industry in the world for these parts. So what has that meant for you? How are you developing these? They're probably the tier 2 and 3 and maybe beyond suppliers. How are you developing them? Are you trying to make them, or what's the challenge? Is it making them automotive? Is it the competitive nature? And also the other side of it is, if they are supplying every other industry in the world, are you learning, instead of saying to them, why don't you do this the automotive way, are you also saying, I know you supply Apple and whoever and Sony or whatever, or what can you learn from them on how they run their supply chains? So if anyone understood that question.
I'll take it if you would like. I think there are a couple changes that have come about from that. One is the old mentality of we'll find the provider and we'll locate them close to our facility. That doesn't happen anymore. So that spreads our supply chain further and further, because those parts, if you told somebody like a chip manufacturer, oh, you need to locate in Marysville, Ohio, they'll tell you you're crazy. So it's a little bit more of, if you want our parts, you'll come and get them, as opposed to, we want your business, we'll come to you. Yeah. So from a sourcing strategy, that's a big change point. The second big change point is, I don't think you can automotize them. Automotivize. I need your spell checker. You can't pull them into the automotive world, because they do business with too many other customers. The chip manufacturers are a really good example of that. So there's some meeting in the middle. That, of course, they have to comply with your standards, but you don't necessarily have to make them a true OEM. So there's compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo what Dana is saying. I think we're learning from those guys and gals as well, or those companies, and you don't try to make them fit. We obviously have new supplier, instruction training and manuals and standards, and it's just the rigidity of those standards have to be more flexible, I think. And as you understand those supply chains, and as you get more reactive and understand their business, you have to be able to adapt, because they are the ones that are going to be supplying you, right? And there's no one else, right? So you have to be willing to be open-minded and learn from them as well.
And I'll offer you a different perspective, because I think I always want to offer you the after-sales perspective. So after a new vehicle is sold, us as OEMs, we owe our customers, depending on our supply and availability. Ours at Toyota is 5 years current model plus 15 years past model, for a total of 20 years. And we have a pretty generous, for most commodities, it's a pretty generous ownership support process that we have. What we're finding, electrical companies are very innovative companies. They're generally the ones working with innovative other companies, and they don't like me because I asked him to hold past model tooling, and I asked him to hold old technology, because I still need to support our customers. So, you know, the vehicles that we've made that are all electric vehicles, like the most recent RAV4 had a limited supply of electrification. It's a different supply base. Dana's right. They're not close to where we want them to be. We have to go to them. We're competing with the Teslas and other really big tech companies for their capacity, production time and capacity. And whether I like it or not, my choices are I do an all-time buy and hold it for 15 years versus getting supply just in time as I need it from your traditional automotive suppliers. And then there's a new challenge, and I'm dealing with it right now, is how am I going to get batteries for these vehicles? Because I can't do an all-time buy on batteries. Batteries come with about a 1-year life cycle. And you know, it's a different market. So it is changing after the vehicle is sold as well. So, and, you know, we're still working our way through that, to be honest with you.
And maybe my perspective on this,
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest challenges for all of us, I believe, is, you know, we've probably got the most complex supply chains in any industry, but that doesn't mean we've got the best solutions. And by and large, we all do supply chain management in a similar style. I think there's subtle, coming to your point, subtle changes, you know, slightly different strategy here or there. But most of these companies we're now dealing with, they don't have a 100-year history. They don't even know what a green screen is, right? Because they never had it, they never had a legacy. So I strongly believe it's a huge learning opportunity for all of us if we are prepared to accept being complex doesn't mean you're the best. And it's sometimes eye-opening what they have got to offer and how simplistic it is. And we should not forget that these companies, when they talk to the Teslas of the world, they talk the same language. They sometimes hardly understand what we're saying. Right? It sounds really strange, but that's the way it is. And we need to be prepared not only to talk and to teach, and we're good at teaching, right? But also to listen and learn.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience? We don't want to leave you stranded out there. We'll have mics going around, so if at any point you do have a question, just put your hand up and we'll get a mic to you.
And there is the app as well.
Right.
You can use the app for questions, and hopefully this time, there were 2 questions on the app and I missed them both. But this time I'm actually looking.
Yeah, I saw you say.
I received here this book as a state-of-the-art way
Yeah.
of recording my thoughts. So.
You can also
The answers are in there. So they interpret them.
Well, that's the answer that the conference gives me.
Oh yeah, you can put a question on a postcard and post it to Ford and Dearborn. Make sure Matthias answers it by next year. One of the presentations we saw earlier from Volkswagen, not a secret, talked about just in the one plant, 300 different systems and interfaces just in the supply chain area alone. And that, okay, it's a new plant, also with group systems, but I'm sure that sounds familiar to any of your companies. So, I mean, it's just, I can't even begin to understand what all those different systems and interfaces are, but is there a strategy to get around on this? I mean, with the cloud technology which is available, with the software as a service, with all this potential that maybe a startup can come along fresh and clean with, an OEM can't just erase its old systems, but is there in the supply chain area a more concerted effort to standardize this and to move away from that setup?
Yeah, the short answer is yes, right? We, I think, probably all have strategies for internal logistics and external logistics and yard management and those things. I think just kind of being visionary or dreaming a little bit, if we're, I wouldn't use the term if we're all lucky, but if we all do our jobs well, in 10 years, we'll still be able to make things and sell them, right? And so I see it as our job to be in constant pursuit of perfecting the process. And I think with that pursuit of perfection, you have to have strategies, on every phase of your delivery points, I guess, if you will, right? From the, again, back to the tier 3, through the tier 2 to 1, and cross-docking and all of that. I think you have to have a strategy which is going to help you improve and define whether or not you're going to be able to compete in 10 years to be able to earn that business. And I think, again, getting back to the vision standpoint, you have to understand the change points on that side to be able to interpret and develop that strategy as well. Yeah.
I think it's a really good question. Most recently, as we began to integrate with the manufacturing and the service part side, looks like the service part side, believe it or not, was a little bit ahead of yard management system planning. And we had some really large distribution centers that were doing 300 to 400 containers a day that we had to really look at for yard management. So went to Jeff's boss back before Jeff had this job, and we asked what are we going to do with the manufacturing plants and separation centers, and they told us which provider they're going to use. So we use the same provider. So now the in-house manufacturing system integrates with the yard management system, integrates with the transportation management system, reintegrates with the yard management system, and then integrates with our in-house warehouse management system. So, we have to look at those strategies as how do we begin to standardize them. And my ask is to our providers here, our fantastic service providers who are here. One of the worst things that I see in our business, in the automotive, inside the OEMs, and Fanno can comment on this, our folks like to invent in-house systems. And one of the challenges when we're doing the yard management system, and I put a challenge, said, you have to buy a canned off-the-shelf. I want a COT system, and you cannot modify it because we'll lose a warranty on it. And when you start putting that out to everybody that they have to use a COT system untouched, just put it in, it's probably the scariest time over the last 2-3 years when we put in the yard management systems, but they work just great. And as a matter of fact, some of our ASN and EDI data that we couldn't get to work really well through our own network by using these COT systems, they were more modern. They actually improved our systems and our information coming in. So what we ask is, as our service providers, is if one of you has a transportation management system and one of you has a really good yard management system and one of you has some incredible warehouses with warehouse management systems, and together you can come to us and say, we think we have a system solution for you. That's the best way to support us, at least at Toyota Motors North America, because coming up with systems capital or coming up with approved business cases for systems is really hard in this environment. So anytime we can leverage what's already out there, any canned off the shelf would be fantastic. That's the best advice I can give to everybody.
Yeah, so first of all, I think this is now the time to apologize that I didn't make yesterday's conference, because it was a missed opportunity, as I've now found out. Because I could have used the data this morning in a meeting we had in Ford, I think, because I was accused we've got too many IT systems. But I could have said, well, we've got 270, which is 10% better than VW. So I really missed here an opportunity. But it comes back to, I think, we need to believe in totally. If we develop it in-house, I will have 10 years down the road, 265 systems, right? And they will still not be state of the art. I think we need to believe in what is in the cloud, apps, whatever we can grab. And the key question comes back to how do we run our, for example, the transport management system. And we all know that there are mega IT systems out there. I'm not yet convinced that's the way to go, because they appear to be equally sophisticated, if not even more sophisticated, what we've got right now. I know everybody's experimenting with certain tools. I don't want to name products here, but they are typically being developed by mega software companies. And I'm not sure whether we need all of this, and whether there are not smarter people out there that can give us very simple, very quick and rapidly developed IT. Because that's what's needed. We don't need 270 systems to run our business, I'm pretty confident. Right? It's lots of legacy, it's lots of regional solutions, because we grew in different parts of the world differently. But the way out is really using what is state of the art. And it all comes back, I think you said this before about apps. I think, whatever question you've got on earth right now, there's an app out there in the App Store, right? And the interesting thing is they all work. And you don't have to do anything if there's a new software up there. I was just downloading on one of my apps the latest revision. It typically says what it's good about, and it says it's compatible with iOS 11. I did not even know that iOS 11 was out there. So then I checked the software update, and really I updated it immediately. It's just working. And when you think about own developed IT, it's very sophisticated. We are good in describing the very extreme case that might or might not happen. And therefore, it becomes very complex. I think they develop forever. And that is not a criticism of the colleagues, it's just a matter of how we communicate. In the app, there is no choice. I can just press the buttons that are on the screen, and they work. I can maybe make a recommendation what I would like to have, and they consider it or not next time around. And then it works again, because there are very smart people out there. So I think that's the way the system, or the whole system, will migrate. Obviously, we need to have a robust system, but I think some of our systems are extremely complicated. And the reason why they are, because they all go back to the times of mainframes. The backbone of the architecture is a mainframe solution, which is basically, it's mission impossible to translate them into the new world. I think people try and they work hard, but it's not doable. So we need to have companies out there that give us the solution. And I'm sure if we ask, somebody in Palo Alto will get into their garage and develop it overnight, more or less.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad to hear the conversation about building versus buying versus leasing, because I guess to put it anecdotally, could you imagine a trucking company wanting to go into business to be a trucking company and say, let's build our own trucks? It's kind of the same concept. You don't understand the research money that goes into it, the development money that goes into it. Listening from a multi-customer perspective, what the customer is looking for. You may have one customer saying, I want this, and the other customer not even understanding that they do want it. So there's a lot of development that goes into that. And back to your comment about customization, as soon as you customize it, you're out of the loop for the next generation and the next generation. And from a development standpoint, if you do decide to do it internally, if you decide it's a competitive advantage for you to build it yourself, which we've done with several, and we've patented them, that's the point that now you're running into time and money. Yeah, do you have enough time to do it? Do you have enough resources to pull it off? And do you have enough money to fund it?
Yeah. Louis, maybe that should be a sign for us. We should stop pulping wood at the weekend to make the paper that we put in magazines. We might actually be able to visit our families now and again. I had a text that Robbie the robot wanted to ask a question, I think. Was that still, yeah, I think we have it out there.
I hope it's Robbie and not that Bill fella.
First of all, Robbie is a heck of a lot more intelligent than I am, I'll give him that. I do, if I may, I'd like to ask you to take a bit of a left-hand turn and give me your opinions on, we seem to live in a period where the stock market has lost all logic. We have huge valuations of companies that have never even come close to profit, and yet your valuations seem to be very low comparatively. How do you get past the restrictions that are implied then to you from lack of capital to accomplish the dreams that you've all shared with us today? What do you do in that environment?
Matt.
Oh, me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, the dynamics of the share market are very simple. It's not about what you're doing today, what the expectation is for the future. There's nothing to do how valuable your company is or not, or how many assets you've got, or what profit you make. It's what do you believe the future will look like, and clearly people believe that Tesla has got a bright future. People believe that Uber, at least at a certain point, has got a bright future because they develop visions that are clearly understood, clearly communicated, and appear to address the future. I think we talked about, what was it called? Electric, whatever? EVs. EVs. We talked about EVs. Okay. So clearly Tesla's got it. I'm not sure whether EVs is the only solution, but governments in Europe have announced you can't sell a vehicle with combustion engines by 2040. So clearly, their projection what the future was like was okay. Yeah, they don't make $1 money, but the expectation is they got it. And that's why stock markets are responding like this, and that's why I'm expecting, to a certain extent from all of us, we fare slightly differently, but compared to the Teslas, I think we're all falling behind because the stock market has not yet really understand what is your plan to respond to the fact that your type of vehicle will be commoditized. And that's why everybody is now moving into the space of mobility, because that's where the money is. And clearly, as soon as people will understand what the individual companies come up as plans, the stock market will respond, assuming people believe in the strategy. And I know all of us are trying to formulate what this might look like. But if we are going out to the market and saying, well, the 2019 model year is even sexier than the 2018 model year, I don't think this will change the stock price at all. Actually, it might drive it further down, because we will be accused of lack of vision. And that has nothing to do with profitability. I mean, everybody knows what's happened, where the stock prices are of our companies, and we are by and large very profitable companies. But that is not what is being honored. It's what is your vision for the year 2025, and are you in line what the analysts and therefore the stock market expects what will happen or not?
Well, let me try to answer without getting fired. So you threw the word stock market in there. Actually, I do believe that one of the ways that we do it is we don't get distracted by things like the stock market. I think at Toyota Motors North America, I'm happy to tell you that we operate off of 3 basic fundamentals. And first of all, it's called the Global Ocean. Our priorities are first set globally. And I was fortunate enough to attend a global meeting last week where I sat with the service part engineering groups from China, Thailand, Japan, Europe, and the global leaders. We come together and we basically harmonize and really work off global standards, and we try to align our efforts to support one global vision. We do the same thing in the supply, our sales, and all our sister divisions do the same thing at a global level. So we have what's called global alignment. Second is what's called regional alignment. So the next thing we can do is, just like Jeff and I, we basically align ourselves in North America, whether it's suppliers in Canada, suppliers in the United States, or in Mexico. All our efforts for planning, and I think a lot of you know, we've got a new plant coming up in Guanajuato. And even though I'm going to get service parts from there, I'm working directly with our logistics control group, or my counterpart, she is, working directly with them, making sure that our strategies are aligned. So we take the global priorities, move them into regional priorities, and we align ourselves again. And then thirdly, in the domestic market, we look at the customer priorities. Because it doesn't matter how efficient we can make cars or how much money we can save or how profitable we can be. If our customers stop buying our product, whether it's new cars or service parts or accessories or financing, then it's not really going to help anybody's bottom line. So the fact of the matter is, we're not distracted. We follow the global priorities, the regional priorities, and then we follow the customer priorities and try to react to local market needs of our customers. Hopefully I'll be here for the next conference next year.
I may just, maybe, just from Bill's question there a little bit, as I understood it, I think, and this isn't in my wheelhouse, but we obviously as Toyota have, divested into different technologies on the finished vehicle side, right, of what's really going to be, willing to sell or able to sell in the next 20 to 30 years. And I think we kind of take that same approach by not putting all of our eggs in one basket from a logistics standpoint, and there's a lot of good technology out there and innovation, and we try to do more smaller scale type of pilot activities to understand what the value add is for us. And, I think with a lean supply chain that we have, we understand the interruptions are going to be very, very continuous, I guess, or very urgent and hit us pretty quickly, but how do we get more proactive, and how do we use the tools and innovation to help us become more predictive, and managing that data and understanding the data and that kind of thing. So, I think we're continuously in study mode a lot of times, and we don't want to put everything on one basket to try to say, okay, we're really committing ourselves all the way, right? So we have to get something out of it, right? And really that's what it's really going to depend on what we can get out of it. So, if that makes sense.
So I'm going to take a really simple approach at your question, Bill. Was that from Bill or was
I can't tell the
that
difference.
from Robbie? But a simple approach is if you've got a fixed budget and you're trying to get the right nutrition, and you know that you don't have an unlimited supply of funds, you can go buy a steak and you can eat one meal, or you can go buy a large jar of peanut butter and some bread and eat a whole lot of meals and get the same amount of protein, the same amount of nutrition. And you really have to try to take that approach with building systems. I think the tough part is if you're limited on funds or if you're limited on capital, you don't want to build for a specific problem. You know, it's kind of like watching the hurricane paths. Everybody has a model, and you see that as you get farther out from today, you see that cone of probability widen. As visionaries, we have to understand when we're building a system, we're not building it for today's problem. We need to take that next step into account. And there's some degree of probability testing and understanding how broad you have to build the system, and you get to the cost and payback continuum. But that's why you want people really smart making those decisions, because you want to get the biggest bang for the money that you do have if capital's tight. And that's kind of the approach that we take. You know, sometimes you want a house or you want a building, but you don't have the funds for the building. But if you have funds for the foundation now, build the foundation. And in a couple of years, people will drive by that saying, where'd that building come from? You may have to build it in pieces, but that's what requires that vision to understand this is where we want to get to. I may not have the funds to do it today, but over the next 3 years, I'll get there. And that building's not going to be sized and not going to be proportionate or have a use to have a single today problem resolution. It's got to solve today's problems. It's got to solve tomorrow's problems.
I think we had a question in the corner over there.
Hi, my name's Cameron Balzer with DHL Supply Chain, and my question would just be about 3D printing. Where would you see 3D printing fitting with production and replacement parts and the opportunities there for the future?
Start with Ed, I think, because that's maybe the most obvious place to...
Maybe start with your service parts.
Service parts, yeah.
I think, sorry to sound so scared about 3D printing, but I mean, I think one of the best parts about being in the service parts business is that whether it's a make versus buy decision when the vehicle is being made, you got to really think about how much quality went into the R&D process. So just in the R&D process, whether it's at a supplier or in one of our in-house manufacturing companies, we had some really good quality engineers looking at doing R&D. Secondly, is when it's really now being made on the line, whether it's a supplier or in-house, there's a lot of quality assurance that's taking place with that component that's being done. When it becomes a resale service part, it goes through something called service parts determination or something called service unit determination. So you wouldn't go buy a whole seat for your vehicle if just a handle was broken. So there's a lot of decisions that are going into even the ownership cost and the quality of just replacing that component versus replacing a whole assembly. And then from that point on, we use those service parts to actually rectify and correct warranty replacements. So there's quality, 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 quality all the way through. I think it's just something we have to do as an industry if we're going to use 3D printing is decide in the service parts world, what is a non-quality decision risk? So I don't know what it is at this point, maybe a radio knob or something like that. You know, it could be something that simple, but we have to decide what's quality. I think we can also look at things that are 15 years old, for example. A vehicle that's 15 years old, it's a trim piece. It's really hard for our suppliers to maintain old tooling and maintain it as well. So I think it's imminent, it's gonna happen. I just think that we're so used to having such good control of quality that giving 3D printing up completely to a supplier without all that pre-quality is just something we have to work through. But I think it's imminent. I just think it's gonna still be a little bit longer.
I would agree. I think it will happen. There's no shadow of a doubt. Somebody will figure out to resolve the speed of printing parts. Somebody will figure out all the quality issues that come with it. It's just a matter of how quick it will happen. It will just happen. And we're better part of this journey, because otherwise somebody else will be first, right? And to what extent, I don't know. I'm sure probably will not build engines right out of 3D printing, but even that I would not rule out, right? But there will be lots and lots of parts that we immediately come to fruition. I think the ones where the quality requirements are not that high, or the likelihood that you can get it wrong not high. The printers will go at an enormous speed pretty soon, and we will produce production parts. I'm absolutely convinced, which obviously has got a challenge to the overall logistics industry, right? Like we have got to position ourselves differently. There might be well be the need for the logistics companies to do exactly the same, because if, and the day will come, you produce a complete vehicle out of 3D printing, what does this mean to logistics? Well, what does it mean to us? I mean, that is probably not something that will happen in 3, 4, 5 years down the road, but in 15 years, why not? And then if you're a trucking company, there might be a challenge. You might only move the raw material. But the same for us, I think. As soon as you've got autonomous vehicles, how many vehicles will you really sell? The utilization of cars will go up. I think right now they stand still most of the day. Tomorrow they will drive all day long. So to answer your question, it will happen. It will happen. It's just a matter of when.
Matthias, sorry, do you have another question? I didn't want to ignore. Was that a question over here? Yeah, right here in front. Right, towards the front here. But just put your hand up. Yeah, thank you. It'll come on.
Hi, Jeff DeVille with Magna Powertrain. Demand, predictability, and reliability really drives material flow efficiency up the supply chain. And the lack of that and the working capital impacts all the way up the supply chain, basically those costs get passed on to you and the consumer. So I'd like to know what the OEMs are doing to improve demand predictability that we could look forward to, from tier 1 all the way up the supply chain.
Yeah, I'll take that. That's something that really hasn't been, at least for Honda, it really hasn't been in the spotlight. As far as understanding what the impact is for the whole bullwhip effect back through the supply chain. We're starting to understand that. We're starting to quantify it. Not just demand predictability for what we forecast in the 830 matches the 862, but even on a daily basis what we build. There are a lot of plant limitations that go into scheduling the facility. We're now starting to question those limitations that the manufacturing sites are putting on the scheduling aspect to say, are they really that big? Are they must or are they want? Does it impact equipment efficiency, or does it impact the planner efficiency? Because the impact back through the supply chain, when you set a strategy for your inbound logistics, and then every day that model looks different and it never matches what you did from a planning standpoint, that's a big problem. And we're starting to be able to quantify what that problem really looks like in dollars and cents, and drive back to the planning groups about looking at those plant limitations and saying they're not real. They might be real in somebody's mind, but they're not an impact that will offset what we're losing in the supply chain, what we're causing at the suppliers. I spent a lot of years working in the procurement groups, ran the Marysville Procurement Group, and I've done a lot of study of what Honda does to the supply base if we do A, B, or C. And I have a very good understanding of how bad it can be. There are people inside the organization that are sensitive to that. Are we going to turn that around 6 months to a year, probably not. But I think I can say from Honda's point of view, we're trying to address some of that because it's impacting our inbound supply chain. It's impacting our inbound consolidation center operations, and we know it spills on back to the supply base in that bullwhip effect.
I think one of the key contributing factor in all of this is how we control our complexity of the product. Obviously, Toyota and Honda is a little bit ahead of Ford on complexity, because that is obviously a driver. The less complex the product gets, the less variation you will have. Having said that, there will be external factors that we hardly can influence, and we need to be able to respond. As some people might know, I come from Germany, but there are cities in Germany that are seriously considering banning diesel cars out of the inner cities. And this happened overnight. I think the take rate of diesel engines are in free fall in Germany, right? And whatever we planned on stability, it will not happen. I think nobody's ordering a diesel car any longer in Germany, because if you're living in a bigger city and you don't know whether tomorrow you can drive into the inner city, well, it will drive instability big time, but also capacities will be challenged within a minute. And we need to be able to respond to this challenge, because clearly we still want to sell cars. And there are other disruptive factors that are happening around the globe. As I said, the French government announcing there are no combustion engines by 2040. Well, that is all happening as we speak. And God knows what Apple will come up as their offering if they ever enter the car market, right? How does it look like? We might believe it's another Tesla, but maybe it's something totally different. So there's external challenges that will be a big challenge. From our side, I think the best hope we've got is to further reduce complexity in our products, because the less complex they are, the less variability you will have. And it comes back to, is a customer, and you talked about research, and clearly he's not. It's certainly not in the car segment. He's not really interested in this huge complexity that we're offering. He's quite happy. Here's a set of features I want to have, maybe 1 to 3 layers, and off you go.
So, perspective, I think something, probably my part of the business, the service part replacement, you're looking for a clear forecast, just like a Katashiki or an inline installation plan, and obviously the retail and the failure rates on the vehicles are going to drive perhaps sometimes an unplanned demand. And you could see in the service part side, especially in the collision parts during the winter months, or this year we had 7 hailstorms across the United States. And when a hailstorm comes across the United States, these customers who are driving our product want their windshields or their sunroofs replaced right away. But we also damage all the vehicles that are sitting on the dealer lots. So we're under pressure to repair the vehicle dealer lot product that's under their floor plan that they're financing. And then we have to also take care of our customers driving our cars. So the service part impact has become greater. In Toyota Motors North America, we have about 830 North American suppliers that we're doing business with. This year, we'll be at 10% alignment. So with the purchasing department and supplier engineering and development group that works with supplier capacity, we're now about 10% of our suppliers. We consolidate our forecast 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year historical with the OE part of it. So sometimes there was this factor that was always like 5% service parts. Well, this year in the 2018 Camry, something as simple as a windshield, it used to be that Safelite, who has 50% market share of all the windshield business, was basically the dominant leader on aftermarket sales. Well, State Farm mandated that all windshields will now run through OEM for the Camry, and that's because our advanced technology and our vehicle safety systems run through the windshields. So our team was caught off guard from that announcement because insurance companies don't want to compromise the safety equipment on the vehicle. So now Safelite's like, hey buddies, how you doing, Toyota? We want to buy all your OEM windshields. So we went from 20% market share to 100% market share. And so what's happening in that situation is we've got to work directly with a supplier, but more and more and more, even in the service part, new model parts planning, we're now back into the engineering we go through this called engineering walkthrough. And something as simple as a radio. If a radio breaks down in a vehicle today, at least in some of our Toyota vehicles, you don't only just not get music, you lose your Bluetooth technology, you lose your hand-free device, and in the middle of the summer, you lose your air conditioning. And it's not about not having music anymore. It's about not having a lot of features. So we had to go from being just service providers to being real good forecasters. So I want you to know that we're working really hard to understand the technology changes. We're working directly, we're about 10% of our suppliers now. We have a combined forecast with the manufacturing, and we're trying to come with one voice to our North American suppliers that says, as Toyota Motors North America, here's our total volume. And that will include domestic OE, Jeff's export OE parts, and the service parts all in the same forecast.
Yeah, maybe just quickly, I'll just add a little bit. We don't control that market either, right? That market kind of controls us, right? And much as we may be used to and be able to incentivize things, right? And so we have a customer too. And so we have an end customer that we have to respond to that market and understand it. We would like stability, right? I guess if you look, probably ask any of us 3 years ago if the truck market would be 64%, SUV market would be 64%. I did production planning and project management for about 15 years at Toyota, and I would have never guessed that in my experience. And so we're trying to respond to that as well, right? And again, from our standpoint, we use the term Hijunka, level ordering. And I can tell this story back to our Georgetown plant. I used to do the scheduling for production planning and stuff, and all of our members would complain when we scheduled Saturdays during the spring and summer because that's when they wanted the time off. They said, why can't you just make all the cars and schedule the overtime on the weekends in the winter, right? Well, most of the time people don't buy cars in the winter so much, right? So it's like matching that demand. We're expected to meet certain inventory levels that the market is driving. And so we're all trying to react to that.
Any other final questions from the audience?
Just one more question from me, really, is to cover the LSPs a little bit. 3 sentences that I hear a lot from the car makers. Large LSPs are execution-based. You tell them what to do, and they're good at doing it, but they're not innovative. From logistics companies, we've got some great innovations. We cannot convince the car manufacturers to take them on board. And sometimes from both of them, there's a lack of incentive for LSPs to innovate. There's a lack of trust and a lack of gain share. The LSPs have got a huge role to play in innovation, in collaboration, in standardization. How can we fix that, that lack of, communication, whatever it takes to make sure that you get the best out of the LSPs by allowing them to help you in the best way that they can?
I'll share a comment that I made to Bill and to Cindy just before lunch, and I break it down into 3 groups. So as OEMs, I think I just shared with you that quality and 3D printing. It's near and dear to our heart, right? Quality, because it's our product from that point forward. So if you look at our business in 3 dimensions, if you look at what we call core business, where OEMs are subject matter experts, making the vehicles, the way we do internal logistics, all that inside our manufacturing. You look at that, including even our service parts retail network. We pretty much like to stay real close to that, whether it's manufacturing or customer-centric. So I call that core business. There's a second business called incidental business. And incidental business is real for us, and I'll use reusable containers as incidental business. It's a must that we have in our business, but do I really want to be paying a fully burdened employee to do the repairs and maintenance of reusable containers? Probably not. So that would be a space that I think our service providers can help. And then we have what's called non-core business, like parts recovery, warranty inspections, obsolescence buybacks. And you start looking at all this muda that I call, it's really just kind of a wasted motion. That's what I call non-core and really even muda. And, the last thing we want to do is put fully burdened full-time employees to do that kind of work. So as you're approaching, I guess, comfortably for me, I'm looking for help on the non-core business that I don't have to use fully burdened. I'm looking for help, and I have outsourced returnable repairs to service providers. But think about the incidental business and the non-core business to start the relationships. And I think once we're successful in those relationships, we probably can move into more core business.
Is that, can we kind of compartmentalize those three levels as what we know we're good at, what we think we're good at, what we know we're not good at, but we pretend?
That's right, Dana. That's it.
Which one's the most, right?
Yeah.
No, I think that's well stated. It's the things that we shouldn't be good at, that we don't want to waste our time on, and really, it's to go back to your question, Louis. How do we fix that? Simple communication. You know, with our third-party logistics provider, we try to hold an annual event with them that I'll share our next year business plan. Treat them just like we would our associates, that they need to understand what the direction of the company is so that they can offer their ideas. And then it's our responsibility to demand that back from our third-party logistics providers. If they know what we're doing, if they know what we're expecting, and we continually ask how they're going to generate ideas and generate incentives themselves, then it actually makes it pretty simple.
Maybe also to respond to your question, I think basically our relationship with all these service providers is pretty simple. We write a statement of work and they act upon this statement of work. We sit once a year, whatever cadence, together with them and trying to enhance it. Coming back to the Amazon experience, that's not how Amazon works at all. It just happens. It's there. There's no debate. The new feature is available, right? I didn't ask them to send me an email. What happened to my package? I have not requested it from them. It simply is there. And I can only encourage people, just make it happen. Take me by surprise, because you understand pretty much what our needs are. You're working together every day, maybe in the repair business, with us, what we are doing. Just implement it. And if it's good, we will buy it. If it's not good, well, then we will not buy it. I think if my golf club didn't turn up for the next 3 months, probably I will never order again with you, right? But that's not happening. I think it's probably a little bit of an unfair criticism, because that's more or less how we act, right? And you mimic it somehow, right? But where is the surprise factor? Where is this just saying, hey, here, this is it does this and this and this, and by the way, if you want it, here it is. And if you don't like it, send it back. Here's a slip, right? It was in the back, right, yesterday. It says, if you don't like it, send it back. I mean, it's probably a big ask, and it's a bet that you will undergo. But that's why we're in business. I think that's why Tesla is currently being valued high at the stock market. They took a bet. There was no guarantee that it would ever work. They didn't have a plan that this next segment can still be moving towards profitability. They just believed in it and implemented it. There's a risk that it fails, but that needs to happen. And that would change, I'm sure, the relationship with the LSPs, any service provider we've got available to us, if it's just being offered to us as a complete product. Here it is, and it works. If you don't like it, return it back to me.
I think we can.
Okay. Well, I think it's the end of the session now. I hope you've enjoyed the discussion, and I hope you enjoyed the honest answers that they gave us. So I'd like to firstly thank the panel for this. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed the 2 days, or 2.5 days if you count the cocktail reception. I thought the reception got us off to a great start. I hope you enjoyed the theme, what we tried to do with the conference, of looking forward, being a bit more innovative. I hope you enjoyed the way we tried to bring in some kind of outside speakers or outside perspectives. Mike Silvio, who, although he's from the industry, presented from a different perspective. Alberto Brea from Ogilvy and Mather talking about how other industries are reacting to a need disruption, and all the panels and presenters that we've had over the 2 days. A couple of the sessions we turned into panel discussions try and encourage more interaction. So I hope you enjoyed those as well. It is, it's an exciting time to be in the automotive logistics industry, but it has to be, we've got today's problems, issues, challenges to fix, but we have to look ahead and we have to have that mindset. And that's what we were trying to get across today, over the last couple of days, that we have to think differently and challenge ourselves. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, Ryder, our premier sponsors, and as I've said, have been over the last 18 years, sponsors of our conferences. Our first innovation sponsor, Sergere, the gold sponsors, Accelerated Services, Air Charter Service, CNW, DHL, DSV, Volution, Time Critical, Infor, GT Nexus, Hub Group, Jack Cooper, JDA Software, Landstar, Metro Supply Chain, Penske, Protrans, RJ & Sons, Syncreon, and XPO Logistics. Our global sponsors, Changju Logistics, CDC, and Jeffco, and our silver sponsors, 4Flow, APL Logistics, CHEP, Jodis, Inform, Orbis, Proact, Royal International, and Snellica Logistics. Thank you for your support. And this year, And this year is a special year for automotive logistics as a group. I mentioned at the beginning, it's the 20th anniversary of Automotive Logistics magazine. And the next issue, which is coming out, will be a 20th anniversary special issue, where Chris and his team have done a great job in looking backwards a little bit in the last 20 years and what's happened. There's a 24-page feature on my different hairstyles in the last 20 years. But we've also looked very forward as well. I don't know if we can even dare to look at the next 20 years, but we're looking forward, and we're looking at it from car maker perspectives, from part suppliers perspectives, from finished vehicle logistics, from outsiders, from consultants, from logistics service providers. So it's a great read. It's something that I think will be. I can't say it will be a coffee table book, but I think it's a magazine that will be kept and referred back to, if only to see if the predictions that were put forward by the experts in the industry come to fruition. So you should look forward to receiving that issue of the magazine, because I think I've seen a lot of the articles, and it really is going to be a great read. And we've had a lot of demand from the industry who want extra copies of this issue as well. So it's been an interesting 20 years, a great 20 years. It's a pleasure, and I'm very proud to be in this industry. It's a great industry, a very important industry, somehow undervalued, not only by others in the industry, but kind of undervalued by ourselves, by us in the industry. The arguments I have with people around the world about logistics is a waste. I hate that term so much, because we add so much value to the automotive industry. I've been very lucky working with some great teams over the years, maybe never better than I have now. As you know, automotive logistics is very much a team. I'm just the good-looking front man that they put forward. What really makes the automotive logistics a great industry, and what's made it a great industry for me, is very much the people. So I just wanted to really thank you so much for making the last 20 years a great, fun, interesting 20 years. And I only hope in some small way we as automotive logistics have given something back to the industry. So thank you very much for your support over the last 20 years. And I think as a thank you, what I'd like to do is just sing some of my favourite lines from a favourite song of mine, Minnie Riperton. I don't know if you know her and remember her. So, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Thank you, everyone.